Good.
All right, so I know that you guys probably know more background than I do, but Rich played for the Boston Red Sox last year, grew up, this was a great story as a local guy, you know, and I think as New England baseball players, they need to see guys that aren't from Florida, from California, that can make it to the big leagues. Also, you grew up in Milton?
Grew up in Milton, yes, that's correct.
And then went to the University of Michigan. I think at that time, they weren't really a major power.
No, they had good years in the '90s with like Barry Larkin and Jim Abbott, and a couple other guys there, but Chris Sabo.
Okay.
Anyway, in the late '80s and the early '90s, they were good. When I got there, we weren't very good. So.
Well, you had a pretty good career there too, but I did notice, looking up some of your stuff, you did have a great freshman year.
Yeah.
So you obviously grew from there.
Yep.
And you've had an unbelievable major league career.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Inspiration to all of us, so I'm going to let you just talk to the guys and maybe have some questions from them.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, please.
And thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you guys for inviting me, really appreciate it. Yeah, so I grew up in Milton, went to the University of Michigan, was drafted 3 times, was drafted by first time out of high school, Cincinnati Reds, second time at the University of Michigan, Anaheim Angels at the time, and then the third time was the Chicago Cubs. Was drafted in 2002, finally signed, called up in 2005, and been in the big leagues for the last 18 years in some capacity with 13 years of full major league service. So the other, 5 years or so, there were some, ups and downs, injuries, different kinds of obstacles in the way, specifically injuries and performance-based as well, that kept me from really staying in the big leagues for a full 18 or 19 years up to this point. But the point that I'm making is that the ups and downs, for me, kind of reinforces, the passion and the love that I have for the game of baseball. So it's something that, without those, kind of things that intercepted a smooth career or a linear path in the big leagues, gave me more insight to help other people and pass along some knowledge that I might have as far as having roadblocks in your way in your career, specifically due to injury and or performance based, and it could be anything else. A lot of things that happen in careers that could get in the way are just walls that continue to be put up to see how much you want to continue to push forward to reach that goal. There's a couple things. You guys just went to Division I, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank
That's awesome. That's awesome. Couple things that I like. The preparation part that you guys are coming into this winter has a lot to do with staying ready and putting in the time and the effort every single day that are going to lead to your successes. And with those successes are going to lead to confidence. That's what I believe. I know it's a big debate, what comes first, confidence or success. I think success comes with confidence. And I think that, doing small successes every single day, whatever that might be, will end up ultimately giving you more confidence at the end of the day, or the end of the year, or at some point during the year, for your performance. And if all 3 of those things kind of go together at once. So if you have, your preparation, your work that you do in the gym, the work that you do out on the field, the studying that you do, getting ready for games, studying that you do, this applies to everything. So whatever you do it's like if we don't study for a test, how do we feel going into that test? Not too good, right? And even if we study a little bit, we feel better. But my point is that putting in that preparation, putting in the time, putting in the work is going to lead to those successes that you can draw from like within the last day, within the last 2 days, within the last week. The further we get away from successes, the harder it is to stay in a good routine. So if we're not in a good routine, then we go around and we ask, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Now we're kind of lost because we weren't doing the preparation or the work that we should have been doing that's leading us to the successes. And why I say that is because our confidence got really high and our successes were high, and then what do we leave behind? The preparation. Because we're like, oh, I don't need to do that. I don't need to lift today. I don't need to work out. I don't need to go for a run. I don't need to, go over the hitters. I don't need to, because we've gotten too high for our own well-being. I think that's something that is really, really valuable. All three of those things go together. So whether it's the preparation that in what you're doing, getting ready for being on time for practice, getting to practice, and then when you're in practice, paying attention and applying yourself for that hour that you have, hour and a half of practice. And I know baseball practices from the pitcher's standpoint, it's, you're focusing in on your bullpens, you're focusing in on your fielding, and then other than that, you're good shaggers. But, really that time, what I'm saying is the time that you have, make the most of it. That's the biggest thing, and I think that I can't tell you really the guys that get to the big leagues, but I can tell you the guys that don't get to the big leagues. And they don't put in the work, they don't put in the effort, and if they do, their confidence gets really high, and then they leave that stuff behind, and then they miss the ability to understand, what it is that makes them great. And yes, talent will get you there. Talent gets you a lot of places, but it's the preparation, the work that keeps you there. And that's why I've been able to stay in the big leagues for 13 full years and 18 years from 2005 until next year or whatever. But that, you talk about the upcoming season and your record and what you guys want to accomplish. That's all well and good, but there's a couple things that I was thinking about on the drive over here. Is that like being, undefeated in mental mistakes and work ethic. Those are two things that you should be undefeated in. Because I was, for me, I throw right now 88 miles an hour. Okay. Yes, I have a good curveball. Yes, I know how to pitch. Yes, the mental intensity and the mental part of the game that I have is, I believe, at an elite level. And again, it's not about what Coach was saying. It's like being from Massachusetts or being from California, being from Texas. You can be from anywhere. It doesn't matter. It just depends on if you want to put the time and the effort in. And if you want to do that, then that's attainable. You don't have to throw 100 miles an hour. It's great. I would love to. I don't. So you don't have to be the fastest or the tallest. This is like the Rocky speech or whatever. But you do have to, put in the time and the effort. If you don't do that, I can guarantee you that it's not going to happen. That's the one thing that I can guarantee. But for your season, in this upcoming season, those are things that, are up to you guys, the individual. It's not up to, anybody else except for you to get up in the morning, to get, motivated and understand what that, why are you playing the game? Why are you here? If you're not going to get up and put in the time and put in the effort and have that intensity, about you as you go throughout the season. So that's, really all I got. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
So getting too high, getting too confident or successful is like a bad thing. When you do that,
Having the confidence, it's great having the confidence. But what happens is when we get that confidence and we feel, let's say I'm going to use pitching as an example, right? So let's say you come off a win. It's so easy to not wake up the next morning and put in the work. You just throw a no-hitter, or I don't need to, I just throw a no-hitter. What do I need to do? I don't need to put in the work. But the day that you don't put the work in, you have to make it up somewhere, right? And I think that if you look at, you know, it's like taking a bowl and filling it with pebbles, right? It's gonna take a long time. And if you're willing to, like, I use the example of a comedian who doesn't make it until they're like 15 years or 20 years from when they started. But are you willing to wait that long, right? And then I'll get back to the confidence thing, but are you willing to wait that long to be successful? So then it comes into the definition of success. What is success? So you have to understand what that is to each and every one of you guys. You have to come up with your own definition. So everybody else might see you on that Netflix special or, you know, a marquee somewhere, but that's success in their eyes. And at the end, you've reached that goal, right? But it's not really about that. It's about the whole journey of getting it. So the confidence part, yes, it is extremely important to have confidence. There's no doubt about it. But there's also false confidence and true confidence that you have in yourself. The ability to understand that if you don't, if you're not putting in the time and the effort and the work, and with a sound routine, the confidence will start to dwindle. What I mean by that is when it starts coming down, then you forgot what you were doing that made you successful, right? And like I said before, the success, confidence comes with it. That's what I mean by that. I didn't mean to cut you off. You had more of the question.
Yeah, I was gonna say vice versa. When you get, like, you're not having a good week or whatever it is, your last 2 starts haven't been good, how are you gonna build that confidence up?
So that's where the routine, where you see guys, so you see guys who don't have a very good routine, and their emotions in between starts are like this, right? Up and down. Like if you take a professional hitter, for example, who goes 0 for 20, and you take the same guy who went 10 for 20, right? It's very small ups and downs. 4 for 4, right? 0 for 4, fine. 0 for 4, you know what I mean? So it's not like this, like on top of the world, you know, living and dying with baseball or results. So you're not result oriented, you're process oriented. Does that make sense to everybody? So the process is really what it's all about. It's about the time and the work that you put in between outings, in between games, and all those small successes build up to something bigger. But again, it comes back to, like I said before, what's your definition of success? And is it for everybody else, or is it for what you want to accomplish? And that's really that's at the end of the day what it's about. You're not looking for outside approval. You're not looking for, hey, good pat on the back. You know, I'm really proud of you. It should be internal, coming from inside of you, instead of externally motivated. That's why you get up in the morning at 6 o'clock to go work out and pull the tarp or whatever. Yeah, it sucks, but you got to get up and do it. And there are days I don't want to work out, but I know that it's going to be beneficial if I do. And then where am I going to make it up if I don't? You know what I mean? So there's always a consequence to not doing something, because it's going to have to be made up somewhere. Does that answer it?
Growing up in your career, how important do you think the people around you and their work ethics affected you?
Yeah. So yeah, I think watching, my dad, get to, I had a dad who was older than I was, and he, was very consistent in his routine every single day. And no doubt some of that, rubbed off on me, and being able to see the consistency that he put in and the preparation that he put in to be ready for, whatever moments that he had in his work, I got to see because of that preparation, he had success. And that's something that is very valuable, but at the same time, if you don't have good examples around you, there are good examples out there that you can look to your teammates, and it's like the old adage of, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But you can drink the water and then see how beneficial, the horse will see how beneficial it is, and then people want to follow, right? So you could be that leader. You know what I mean? You can start doing it yourself every single day, waking up. Yeah, in the beginning, it's tough. It's hard. Getting the forward motion or changing a routine or changing a lifestyle or doing something is very difficult in the beginning. But once you get it and you start going, it's, you know, like a big breath of fresh air. And that's possible for anybody. I mean, I did it. So I know anybody can do it if I can do it.
What do you believe is your key to longevity and long-term success?
I think the one thing that's why I've been able to have success over the course of my career is the continuous work on you know, my mental side of the game and understanding that I call it like the light switch mentality. So you have to be able to, you know, it's almost like a boxer in a ring. I love that example because it's so real and you can see it. That guy on the other side is trying to, you know, he wants to beat you, right? And you're on the other side and it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? And trying to fight that or go against it is something that I've been able to, I guess, absorb and use to my advantage when I go out there on the mound and pitch at the major league level or any level. And I would say the one thing that has helped me over the course of my career is that I don't change, whether it's in spring training, in the backfield against minor league players, or I'm throwing the bullpen, or it's Game 4 of the World Series. It doesn't matter. It's the same guy every single time, right? So that's where routine comes into play. So that's one thing that's helped me, is having a solid routine. Understanding about being in the moment, which is the here and now, where your feet are. Understanding that outside opinions are going to be very minimal as far as influencing my outings. So whether I do well or I don't do well, the pats on the back and all that stuff, and hey, you're great, and all that's all well and good, but you really have to get into why you do it. I'm going to be 43 years old this year. There's nobody that's going to be older than I am in baseball. There hasn't been an older pitcher in baseball for the last 3 years, and everybody asks me, why do you continue to keep doing it? Because I love it. But that's one thing that the passion keeps me going. So you have to have that, and it doesn't matter if it's baseball or whatever it is, you have to have that intensity and that passion to go for it, because when you do hit failure, or you do have an injury, or you have success, people quit. They stop. I'm good. That's enough. Or, oh, I had an injury. Okay, well, do you really want to rehab and go through all this and get through that wall to get to the other side, to see what's over there? Those are the things that, the mentality is really what has driven me over the last, since I've signed. It's just been, again, this is like a progress that has happened over the last 2 decades. This doesn't happen overnight. This is work that has to continuously be put in. Just like you guys go to the gym and you put in hours in the gym of getting your body stronger, your shoulders stronger, or your core stronger, or whatever. Your mind has to be, that is, if I were to say anything, as a pitcher, for me, I would work on my shoulder. I would probably do some running, and I would just work on my mental toughness, my mental acuity, my mental ability to be able to understand how to navigate waters with myself. It's not even about the stadium. It's not even about playing in front of 50,000 people. So understanding you.
Talk a little bit about like your off-season plan, obviously, for 18 years. It's worked for you, whether it's working out or working on your mental side of things.
Yeah. So really, it starts right as the off season or the season ends. I try not to take too much time off as far as getting into my workout, my routine. And I've been fortunate to be able to have really good people around me that know the shoulder, that know the anatomy of the body as it ages too. But really the biggest thing is getting into a great shoulder program in the off season. And then I've just started throwing today, so today was my first day of throwing. And then just continuously build up from there. Tomorrow is another day, so it's another day of going in, working on my shoulder, working on total body workout tomorrow, and then running. But really, it's just, again, it's like that drop in the bucket every single day. Okay, there's another one, there's another one. You're not going to start out, your training age isn't going to, as you continue to train, or what I found out is that as you continue to train, as you get older, you get back to your training age faster. But the ability to maintain it does get a little bit harder as you get older. So what I look at for the season is as you enter for me, I enter spring training at, the peak physical condition, right? But baseball condition is behind. So what happens over the season is that the work that I'm putting in right now in the off season helps the decline of strength. So I just don't fall off a cliff. You slowly decline as the season goes on with strength, but your baseball acuity goes up and stamina goes up. So there's a fine cross, why they call it like mid-season form, right? So it's like where baseball strength and everything kind of comes together with your physical strength. But those two things go hand in hand throughout the season, and that's the work that I put in now to have the declines or those withdrawals a little bit not as sharp during the season.
So you talked a lot about like your mental toughness and how you learn a lot about that during the years. What would you say is like a cue for you, like in game, like say you were in like a elimination game, you just hit a big home run and now your team's down because you let up that home run? What's like a cue you tell yourself to keep yourself in that moment so you can still finish the game and help your team out?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you focus on the task at hand, you focus on this pitch, right? So I go out there, let's say we'll use 100 as a number. I got 100 pitches as a starter. I want to see how many pitches can come out of my hand the most effective way that I want it to come out of my hand the way I want it, right? So when the ball comes out of your hand, you're like, man, that felt really good. It doesn't matter if you're an infielder, outfielder, catcher, you can feel that, right, when the ball comes off your fingers the way you want it. So as a pitcher, I'm trying to maximize that number. So at the end of a game, if I could say 92 out of 100, 88 out of 100, I know that's probably, if I do that consistently over the course of the season, they're going to be good results. But in the sense of giving up a go-ahead home run, the frustration is there, but as soon as I step back on the mound, it's gone. I'm focusing in on having that ball come out of my hand the way that I want it. And you got to keep it as simple as possible. You can't make it this big, dramatic, oh, I just gave up a home run, the world's, whatever. So what? Big deal. You got to get back on the mound and execute that pitch. And it's always about, like I said, the task at hand, which is the moment. So you're focusing in on the moment as opposed to focusing on the outcome, right? So let's say if I'm having trouble throwing strikes, the intensity and the aggressiveness is going to solve a lot of issues as opposed to tentative and withdrawn, right? So when you're aggressive and you have that intensity, and this is that light switch mentality where you walk between the lines, you're not, I've got a lot of friends in the league, and I pitch against a lot of guys that are my friends, but they're not my friends when I go out there on the field because we're trying to win a game. And that's what it is at the end of the day. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to love them afterwards, but not during the game. So, those things with outcome-related mindsets have to be removed and focused in on the moment. And when you're focused in on the moment, it's amazing. It's like the zone, right? They call it the zone or whatever, the flow, or you're in that position. But you can train yourself to get there like that. it doesn't have to be this big, long, like, oh, I didn't get 8 hours of sleep, I didn't eat this food, I didn't, whatever, I didn't do what who cares? It doesn't matter. If somebody called me right now and said, hey, Rich, you gotta pitch a game in an hour, or whatever, 10 minutes from now, give me a uniform, let's go. I'll get ready and I'll be, the best that I'm gonna be. You're gonna get everything that I can give you right now. But that takes time to train to get that. And that's not like the intensity that you have off of the field. You know what I mean? But it is when you get on the field. And if it is in something else, whatever field it might be. It doesn't have to be baseball, it could be anything, but you have to have a passion for it. But the home run, it happens, and you move on, and you get ready for the next pitch.
Did you have a moment, event, an outing even, where you had the realization, all right, you know what, I can be a big leaguer, I can compete at the highest level? Was there like a moment, or was it kind of like a gradual, kept having success? 'Cause I know a lot of our guys are striving to try and, eventually get paid to play. So I was just wondering if it kind of happened at once, or if it just kind of happened over a period of time?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I think. In 2007, I had a pretty good year, a full season in the big leagues with the Cubs, and this goes back to, where your preparation and your success end up getting a little muddled, right? With that confidence. So your confidence is high, your success is high, and then the preparation kind of goes down. Now, I didn't stop preparing physically, right? But mentally, I thought I had it. I thought that was, wow, this is great. This is, I read a couple books. I really did a lot of meditating. I did deep breathing. I had great affirmations. I was going out there and I'm going out to pitch, and I had success. Now, going into the next year, you start talking about, and this is 2008, it's like, well, what do you think? There are Cy Young talks. This could be a great year for you. You guys are, you have a great team, talking about all this stuff. This is preseason stuff, so I was not prepared for that, because all I was thinking about was outcomes, right? And that is like the kiss of death. And that was, in that 2007, going into 2008 season, I ended up hurting my back in spring training. Another move was not listening to myself and getting it taken care of, but tried to fight through it and pitch through it, which led to really poor results, which found myself in AAA. And then that whole entire summer I basically spent in Arizona trying to rehab my back. But that led me to the following season, or actually fast forward a couple seasons, to with the Boston Red Sox or St. Louis Cardinals in spring training, and going into the season, I was in AAA that year in 2010, but I started throwing sidearm because I moved into the bullpen. So when I moved to the bullpen, I kind of was sold out and all in on having that be my career. Was going to be a bullpen pitcher for the rest of my career, and was kind of letting go of starting. But what ended up happening was getting to Boston and actually meeting with a guy, Bob Tewksbury. I don't know if you guys have heard when he was a pitcher in the big leagues for 12 years or so, but he was the mental skills coach for the Red Sox. And one of the moments was like, we were talking, he's like, hey, when are you going to stop BSing me? Like, you think everything's fine, everything's good and all that, and when are you going to actually really have a serious talk with me? And I was like, wow, it really woke me up, and I was like, okay. That was like a little bit of it was a big wake-up call, but it also got me back to what I said earlier, is the 90% mental part of it. It got me back into really diving into mental skills and solidifying my ability to go out there and play in any conditions, any situation with my body, any level, it didn't matter where it was, who I was facing, whatever the stage was. And, fast forward, went through, 5 years of relieving at the major league level and the minor league level, and then in 2015, found myself in Long Island in independent ball. And I think that was a little bit of more of the aha wake-up moment kind of time that was, okay, here you are in independent ball, literally with, nothing to lose, and understanding that when you do have nothing to lose, it's a pretty exciting place to be, because it's dangerous for everybody else. And I think that was really the big turning point of getting back into affiliated baseball with the Red Sox and getting the opportunity and then really taking it. And then understanding that results do not matter. It's not about the results. It's about how the ball comes out of your hand and the intensity that you bring to that field when you go out and play. And you can't fake it. You can't fake it. Because everybody can see it. Everybody can see when you're genuine. Everybody can see when you're, tentative, or you have that aggressive mentality. And it really, I'm telling you, if anybody's having any trepidations or any kind of, tough time pulling the trigger or whatever it might be at the plate, on the mound, in the outfield, in the infield, whatever it is, summons up some kind of intensity, some kind of aggressiveness, and just go for it. And do it again, do it again, do it again. It's not going to be smooth at first, but eventually you're going to be able to get through whatever that is, and you're going to start to find out this is who you are.
Last point for me, Rich, if you could. So you just mentioned we're going Division I.
Yeah.
Right, so we got some pretty good challenges ahead of us here.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Northeastern, UMass, Bryant, but going out to play Kansas State, Omaha, and Army,
Yeah.
to start the year. Obviously, you're on the hill,
Yeah.
and you're facing Aaron Judge, Miguel Cabrera. Like, how do you, I know you've said a lot about it, but I just, one piece of advice for these guys when they're up against, a pretty good challenge that we're going to have this year.
Yeah, I think the one thing is, look, it doesn't matter who you're playing. I think, and I don't mean any disrespect, like all the teams that I've played for, went to Michigan, whatever. It doesn't matter who's on the front of your jersey. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Okay? It matters about the guys in the room and each and every one of you. So if you look at each other and you're there for each other, if you go and play Kansas State or you go play, who else did you say? Northeastern or BC or whoever, I mean, who cares? It doesn't matter. They're no different than you guys, right? The one thing is that if you don't bring that attitude and you don't bring that intensity, and you're not undefeated in mental mistakes, and you're not undefeated in effort, yeah, it's going to show up in the record. But I guarantee you that you're going to have some, W's in the column with that mindset. I know that, you mentioned Aaron Judge. Like, I faced Aaron Judge this year. He was going for 61, and we were in Yankee Stadium. They're switching out the balls and all this stuff. And fortunately, I had been through that with Barry Bonds back in 2007, I think. And switching out the baseballs and all that. I can remember, like, that mindset. And I had a pretty good mindset in 2007, but I still was like, wow, this is a big moment. It's like, who cares? It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you're facing, who you're up against. All that matters is it's literally you against you. And how good can you be? How good can you let yourself play to the potential that you have? Does that make sense? So whether it's Northeastern, whether it's Kansas State, or whoever it is, don't play down to a level that mentally you might think you're at, because you're not. Okay? You guys earn the right to be Division I baseball players, and you guys are Division I baseball players. So go out there and attack. It's very, very, very simple. That's the way I look at it. Any other question?
I think you've literally put our last 4 or 5 months in a 35-minute nutshell, really. I mean, incredible,
Yeah.
the advice and everything that you've gone through and what we've been talking to the players about. So really can't thank you enough to come in, the guy with your experience and obviously performance, to be able to have these guys here. That I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Rich. Father Chiquetto, thank you for allowing us this opportunity.
I can thank Pierce and Jack and Eric. Are they here? Oh, yeah. They wrote very good papers on injuries and stick-to-itiveness, and I see some other students in my classes. But, and I sent it to Rich, and he was impressed by it. So it meant a lot. It's very difficult, you know, when you have an injury and people are pressuring you to give up. And these three just moved ahead.
Yeah, it was a good papers. I hope I got to read them. It was very interesting. It's an interesting dilemma that everybody faces, I think, and the one thing is just, it literally just comes, when you get pushed into a corner, it's like, do you fight or do you curl up? And that's again, it's pretty simple. It's that boxer's mentality when you go out there. And that's again, it's with anything. Because I've been counted out more times than I can even remember. But it's the will to continue to keep going and persevere and keep fighting and moving forward. I mean, even this year, I'm not signed anywhere to go anywhere yet. And the whole thing right now with me is, well, you're going to be 43. Last year was, well, you're 42. The year before that, well, you're 41. So if you're not too old, well, you're too young. Well, if you're too young, then you know you're not skilled enough. Well, if you're not skilled enough, then you're not smart enough. It's always something that somebody else is going to have. Always going to be another opinion or whatever it is. But you got to just continue to keep working and continue to keep focusing in on your craft.
Thank you, Father Tim, our guy picking up our food and all our support, and especially Father John. If you didn't see Father John come sneaking in on us, our president here with us today having lunch, and he supplied you guys with lunch for everything that we did and having Rich with us. So make sure you say thank you to Father John. I appreciate it. John for lunch today.